Dobro večer, dobrodošli. Novo izdanje emisije u Obruču. Opet smo spremili jedan izuzetno zanimljiv intervju. Našeg večerašnjeg gosta ste mogli već da gledate u studiju tada kao specijalnog analitičara za završnicu NCAA sezone, odnosno martovskog ludila. Tu je bilježio sjajne rezultate, nakon toga napravio i sjajnu evropsku karijeru, imao izlete u NBA i neko ko vjerovatno bi mogao da radi ovaj posao, ali tamo sa one strane Atlantika kad okonča svoju karijeru.
Da, jedna onako izuzetno interesantna priča, jedan krajnje nesvakidašnji košarkaški put. Čovek koji je igrao za Partizan, igrao je za Žalgiris, igrao je za ekipu Olimpijakosa, pa je otišao u NBA, pa se vratio iz NBA lige i sada je član madridskog Reala. Pretpostavljam da vam je jasno o kome govorimo. Najdžel Vilijams Gos vrlo često počinje i u startnoj petorci utakmice za kraljevski klub ove sezone, a Madriđani stoje veoma dobro u oba takmičenja u kojima igraju ove sezone, i u Ligi NDS-a gde drže lidersku poziciju, a i u Euroligi gde su u samom vrhu tog karavana. Trenutno bolji učinak od Reala ima jedino ekipa Olimpijakosa.
U narednih nešto više od pola sata Najdžel Vilijams Gos.
Najdžel, it's nice to talk with you again after all these years. Right now you're in Real Madrid, what's been going on with you?
Man, it's been a while, huh? Yeah, it's been a while. No, it's man, it's good to be here to see you guys again. Obviously, you know, I remember the original interview we did, and man, it seems like forever ago. But no, everything is good. Can't complain. You know, getting ready for the Copa del Rey, so I'm excited for this challenge coming up.
You've been to my favorite team, Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
For 3 years, I think.
Year and a half.
Oh, year and a half, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like 3, you know? Yeah. But you went to the NBA. What was the experience like?
I mean, one, it was a dream come true. You know, I think every player, especially American player, you know, has a dream to play in the NBA. And for me to, you know, to sign that contract and to get a guaranteed contract, you know, for me was a dream come true, and you know, kind of a testament to all my hard work that I had put in up until that point. So that's first and foremost. And two, you know, I was very fortunate to go to a great organization. As you said, you know, Utah is one of the best organizations in the NBA from top to bottom, you know, very professional. And I got to learn from a lot of great players, you know, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, you know, all the...
Did Stockton ever show up?
Yeah, well, I knew Stockton from college because he went to Gonzaga. So I had a relationship with John before I was in Utah. So, but yeah, so it was a great learning experience for me, a dream come true. And yeah, you know, I would say something special along my basketball journey.
How would you describe your basketball journey? You know, you made the decision to come from the United States to play, to learn about European basketball. Then you went to play to NBA. Then you returned to Europe. How was it like for you? And, you know, was it hard to make all these changes, career moves, life changes, and everything?
Man, my basketball career has been a blessing. I mean, it's been a blessing only from the man above, because there's millions of talented players, you know, guards, big guys, small forwards, at every position. And so for me, my basketball journey to do the things that I've done, to play the places that I've played, obviously the Final Four that we talked about in college, playing at a club like Partizan, playing at a club like Olympiacos, going to the NBA, you know, then going to Lokomotiv, and now Real Madrid. I mean, my career has been, you know, for me a blessing. Yeah, so I mean, you know, has it been hard? Of course, you know, to be at the levels that I played at, of course, it's difficult. That's why not everyone, you know, can reach those levels. But I'm very thankful. I continue to work hard every day to continue to push myself. But you know, I'm very happy and feel very blessed for my basketball journey.
As an American player, can you compare NBA and EuroLeague. We had recently Luka Doncic say it's easier to score in the NBA. Nikola Jokic told us, well, it's too crowded in Europe. Like it's 10 guys bumping in the paint. What's your take as an American player?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it's a take. I think it's a fact. You know, I think if you look at the scoring averages in the NBA and look at the scoring averages in Europe, it's not even close. And a lot of it is just style of play. And I think we touched on that in our last interview. It's just, you know, you have certain rules in the NBA, no defense at 3 seconds. It's a much larger court. The game is 48 minutes, so it's a longer game. So there's a lot of rule factors that go into play that make the game, again, more offensively based in the NBA. So yeah, I would agree with, you know, those statements that it's definitely easier to score points, and that's why you see higher scores in NBA. But just two different styles of game for sure.
How would you describe the passion that fans have for basketball here in Europe? You had the chance to play in some of the teams that are really passionate about basketball. Partizan Belgrade, Olympiacos Athens, you know, the crowd are really crazy in those teams.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to my basketball journey, to play in, I would say, the 3 largest rivalries in Europe: Partizan Red Star, Olympiacos Panathinaikos, Real Madrid Barcelona. I mean, I've been very fortunate to experience that passion at the highest level. But yeah, it's something that you can't really describe to people back home in the States, because until you feel it in person, you know, I try to show people videos of different gyms, Maccabi's gym, you know, Zvezda's gym, Partizan's gym. But until you're in it, you know, and you're on the floor and you're like, man, I can't even hear myself think right now. It's so loud. No, really. So it's something that's hard to explain to people that haven't actually been in those arenas. But it's special. You know, it's special to have that fan support in Europe.
You touched it now. Compare those 3 rivalries.
Yeah.
What are the pros? What are the cons?
Man, it's very difficult because, I mean, they're all different. You know, I think one thing that was very interesting in Belgrade was that at the time, Partizan and Zvezda both played in Pioneer all the games. Now I know it's a little bit different because Partizan's playing in Stark, but when we were sharing a gym, so you have 2 clubs, 2 historic clubs, and they share one gym, you know, so I think that's kind of unique. And then, you know, in Greece it's a little bit different. You know, we're on different sides of the city, so you have kind of the green area and the red area, which is cool. You know, their fans and our fans. And then obviously with Madrid and Barcelona, you have 2 of the premier clubs in Europe as far as their history in EuroLeague, all the success that, you know, and all the great players that have played, you know, at these 2 clubs is just crazy. So they're all a little bit different, but like I said, all special in their own way. And, you know, I'm glad that I've got to experience them.
Many players that we have talked with are saying that Real is probably the best basketball organization in Europe. Comparing to your experience in the NBA, how close it is?
Man, it's very close. You know, it's, I mean, from the facilities to the amenities, you know, to our sponsors, to the travel, you know, it is very close. You know, I think, you know, if you see our practice facility, I mean, it's just like an NBA practice facility. We've, you know, 5 courts and the weight room and all the, you know, the physio rooms and stuff like that. So it's right up there. You know, I've seen both, and it's very close.
What do you think about Real season so far? You guys did a heck of a job last season, came to the Final Four, beat Barcelona, who was a favorite there. Then maybe out of nowhere, I maybe can't say that, but you beat Barcelona in the finals of the ACB. Mm-hmm. How do you rate Real season so far? Most of the guys, your teammates, have some kind of NBA experience. It's maybe unique in Europe. Like 11 guys used to play in the NBA.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, touching on our season this year, I think, you know, up until this point, it's gone really well. I mean, I think if you look at our record, I think we're tied for first in EuroLeague and we're tied for first in the ACB. So, I mean, I don't think, you know, we can complain about where we are. Last year, as you mentioned, you know, we had a heck of a season as well. You know, losing in the championship to Efes by 1 point, you know, and then winning the ACB was a great finish to last year's season as well. So, you know, the last year and a half, you know, we've experienced a lot of success, and obviously we hope to continue that this year. And then as far as our talent goes, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when you talk about 11, 12 guys that have either been drafted or played in the NBA, you know, or high draft picks. You know, Hazonia, top 10 pick. You know, Yabusele, top 20 pick. You know, Rudy and Chacho and, you know, all these guys that, you know, were really high picks in the NBA. So, you know, it's a blessing to be able to play with so many great players and learn from those guys every day in practice. And, you know, it gives you confidence when you step on the floor and you know that, you know, you have a team full of weapons that at any moment can strike. So it's fun.
It is a common opinion here in Europe that Spanish basketball league is probably the best national league in Europe, but also is the hardest one to play because especially if you are playing EuroLeague and you're playing back-to-back games in EuroLeague and then you have to travel on Canary Islands or something like that, there is no game that you can say, I'm going there to win by 20 points or something like that. You have to earn the victory wherever you play in Spain.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think I would say that it's hard to argue that the ACB is not the best domestic league in Europe. I think if you look at the standings in all the competitions, EuroLeague, I think right now all 4 Spanish teams are in the top 8. So half of the playoffs, all Spanish teams. You go to Eurocup, I think Badalona and Gran Canaria may be first in their groups in Eurocup. You go to Champions League. You know, last year was a Spanish final in Manresa and Tenerife. So, I mean, in every competition, the Spanish teams are doing great, you know, so I think it's a fact. So, like you said, if you play, you know, a double week in your league and have to play any of those teams, you know, it's going to be difficult. So, you know, you have to have a deep roster, which obviously we just touched on that, you know, we have a deep roster built to, you know, have success in both leagues, but it's a challenge for sure.
A lot of European guys, when they come to NBA, first thing they tell us, it's like, well, man, everything is great, but like we don't hang out as much like we do in Europe. What's your take as an American guy? Is it similar here? Is it different? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, from my experience, it's been similar. Obviously, I think in Europe you do a little bit more as a team. Obviously, the travel is a little bit different. You do have, you know, more team meals that you'll eat together, stuff like that. But I mean, again, at the end of the day, like, now I'm a little bit older than when we last spoke, so I have a family. I'm married. I have a son. Yeah, thank you. So, you know, when I'm not at practice or something like that, I'm trying to spend time with my family as well as other guys on our team. So that plays a part. You know, we all have families and lives outside of basketball, but you know, we definitely spend a lot of time together on the road.
When we look at the style of basketball, EuroLeague comparing to the NBA, how close it is? What are the main differences? What are the main similarities between NBA and EuroLeague basketball style?
Man, it's just so different. You know, I mean, it's just it's completely different. You know, and I would say again, even in Europe, you know, I would say it's still a little bit more team focused, where you don't see as many teams dominated by 1 or 2 players. You know, it's a little bit more spread out. It's a little bit more traditional, where even if maybe your main guy is a small forward or center, the point guard's still going to have the ball and call the play. In the NBA, if your best player is a small forward, that guy's probably going to have the ball at the top, and everyone's going to be spaced around that guy. So it's a little bit more traditional in the sense where you still have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 traditional positions. NBA is a little bit more positionless. You see teams playing, you know, line up with 6, 7 and below. You know, in Europe, you still have, you know, a little bit more size down low. Definitely a lot more post-ups in Europe than you see in the NBA. So again, I mean, it's just, like I said, then you go back to the rule changes. So that changes how you have to prepare the game. You know, there's not going to be as many isolation situations because the defense is set up, you know, a certain way. So it's completely different. Me personally, I don't think that there's a lot of similarities. And again, I never try to discredit one league or the other. I just say that they're different.
Some European coaches tell me, I don't like it how it's officiated in Europe, because the talented players are not so protected. On the other hand, some guys in the NBA tell me, well, here some of the guards especially are overprotected.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I think some of the star players in Europe are protected okay, in my personal opinion. But no, I mean, I think that's natural. I think, you know, at any level, college, NBA, Europe, your main guys are, it's just natural. I mean, we're all humans, officials are humans, and also those guys have the ball a lot more. They're getting more plays for them, so they're going to be in more of the action, and so that could, you know, increase their foul rates or whatever. So I would say on both sides, the stars are going to get a lot of calls, and everyone else, you know, you kind of got to hope that you get some good calls that night.
You told us about that you played for teams that have huge tradition, successes, history in European basketball. But when we talk about the pressure, how big is the pressure when you play for, I don't know, teams such as Partizan Belgrade, Olympiacos Athens, Real Madrid? Is it different in the NBA, or I don't know, how would you compare the pressure?
Yeah,
I mean, from the fans, from the, I don't know, media, or
yeah,
and
I mean,
everything?
it's very different. I mean, again, I think in the NBA also, you know, there's agendas in the NBA. You know, you have certain teams that are building for 5 years, and they're open about their goal is 5 years, 6 years down the road. You know, they're trying to get high draft picks and stuff like that. In Europe, everyone wants to win today. There's no team in Europe that's trying to be good in 3 years. Everyone wants to win today. So that creates more pressure on the teams, you know, that are playing today. And then as we touched on the fans, you know, the fan support is crazy. And I think it's natural to want to give your best for the fans that are supporting you and cheering for you and are lifelong fans of an organization way before you got there. So in the NBA, you know, it is a little bit more of a, you know, something to do for the families. You know, you have some fans, but it's very different. You know, it is very different in Europe.
Who's the toughest player for you to play against in Europe?
Man, it's a good question, man.
I know you can name two, probably.
No, I'm trying to think. The toughest player. I mean, I would say, you know, Mike James is one of those guys. I was just thinking, you know, we just played Monaco, and he's one of those guys, again, that has the ball a lot. Like I said, when you talk about someone who's in a lot of actions, you know, and is really, yeah, it takes a lot of shots, really good at getting fouls, so you have to defend without fouling. You know, he's tough, but I mean, there's a lot of great players in Europe, and you know, and everyone is different. You know, everyone, you know, has different strengths for their games, and you just kind of got to be ready to read and react that night.
How much do you think that your game has changed since the last time we talked? It was your first professional season.
But you did pretty good.
Yeah. And what is the biggest change that you have made in your game?
I mean, I would say the biggest thing is just maturity. You know, just my mental approach to the game. Having played in more professional systems, both in the States and in Europe, different coaches, different teammates. So I would say just my maturity. I mean, obviously, you know, you improve your physical skills every year, stuff like that. But, you know, I think being a professional comes down to your mental. And I think I've grown a lot in that area. And, you know, I think that's definitely been the biggest change, is just my experience.
And as you mentioned now, you're in Real Madrid, bunch of great players, good players, whatever you want to say. Is it hard from time to time, like you're on the bench and you're watching the action, then you have to wait for your chance and do good in some kind of minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Does it eat on a person, or you manage to stay even-keeled?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I think as a competitor, you always want to be on the floor, right? So when you're out the game, you're waiting to go back in. But I would say it's definitely the biggest challenge at playing at a club like Madrid, because you're not going to play 35 minutes and, okay, I can take 5 shots to find my rhythm. You know, you're playing in, like you said, short stints, and you have a team full of 15 guys. So if you make a couple mistakes, they have someone, you know, a great player behind you to, you know, get them in the game and see what they can do. So you definitely have to be super efficient, and, you know, you have to constantly trying to contribute to the game. You know, again, the game is not going to wait for you. You have to kind of put your imprint on the game somehow, some way. And a lot of times it's not always scoring, especially from the point guard for me. So I've had to find multiple ways to find my value and add value to the team. And I think I've done that. You know, I think I've earned the coach's trust, and they know, you know, how I can affect the game in different ways. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
How would you describe this competition system in the EuroLeague? You have a 34-round regular season, then you play best out of 5 quarterfinals, and then you go to same system, competition system as it was in the NCAA Final Four, do or die, one game.
I mean, one is super competitive. Another difference between the NBA and EuroLeague is one's 82 games and the other one's 34. So you can't go on a 6-7 game losing streak. You know, you can find yourself completely done with the season and out of the playoffs if you do that. So it makes every game so competitive, which is a big difference in the NBA. But I mean, again, I think it's super exciting, again, for the fans to watch a competitive season. The best teams in Europe playing, you know, twice, go to the playoffs, and then it's the Final Four. I know there's been a lot of talks, should the Final Four maybe change to a playoff series and stuff like that. And, you know, I see the pros and cons of both sides, you know what I mean? You know, I love the one-game suspense, and I think the fans do too. I think you may get a truer champion, so to speak, if you do the series, because I think the best team over the course of, you know, with best of 5 or whatever, is probably going to, you know, win that series. So I see the pros and cons to both, but, you know, right now I enjoy the schedule the way it is.
Who's the best player that you have seen so far? Europe, NBA. Who's the guy you say, wow, this guy is...
Man, I mean, now I've seen the guys.
You've seen all of them. All of them. Who was the most impressive live?
The most impressive live? Oof. Man, so many guys, man. That is tough. This guy's putting...
Come on, you got to coach his mind.
I would say this. No, I would say this. I'm gonna not directly answer your question, but something that I think still to this day amazed me more than the ordinary thing amazed me was seeing Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray go at it in the playoffs in the bubble. That level of basketball that I saw between those two, when I think of kind of some of the great performances that I've seen live, those two going at it were special to watch.
What are your goals? It's been a while since we talked first, but you're still a young guy.
Yeah.
There are many years ahead of you. Yeah. What are your career goals at this point?
Man, the main goal, man, is to win a EuroLeague title. You know, I would be lying if I said that there was anything that kind of consumes my mind more than that. Everything kind of falls underneath that, but I think every day, you know, I think about winning that EuroLeague title, and especially last year, getting hurt in the Final Four. I think kind of even adds to that motivation because I wasn't able to play. But for me, I mean, you guys saw me 5 years ago and talked to me, you know, way back then. My mindset is always about winning as many titles as I can. You know, when I'm done, I would love to look back and, you know, look at all the different championships and just high-level games that I was able to play in. So win as many championships as I can, but it definitely starts with a EuroLeague, and I hope I can get one of those.
What is the team that you watch the most when you have time? I know you watch a lot of basketball.
Yeah. I watch a ton of basketball. I mean, honestly, you know, I'm constantly looking at, you know, the kind of the good matchups, so to speak, that week in EuroLeague. I don't really watch NBA, if I'm being honest. I don't watch a lot of NBA. Obviously, I watch Partizan a lot, you know, because, again, starting my career there, they just kind of have a special place, you know, in my heart because that's where...
Do you like it?
Do I like what?
This season.
I mean, yeah, they play really well. They have a great team, great coach, and it's been fun to kind of see them kind of find their footing a little bit. You know, it kind of started off kind of up and down, but I think now they're playing really well, and now they're in the top 8 of EuroLeague. So I watch them a lot, like I said, just because I have, you know, that connection. But, man, I watch a ton of EuroLeague basketball every week.
Najdžel, thanks a lot for your time. And hopefully it will not take so long to learn another conversation and interview that we will make.
Yeah, man, I hope so too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Eto, mogli ste da čujete Najdžela Vilijamsa Gosa, kao i uvijek izuzetno analitičan, prati sve, gleda sve, zna gotovo sve igrače, tako da kažem i pored toga što bi mogao da radi u medijima, ako ga bude interesovalo, može bez problema i da bude trenerski angažovan ovaj bek.
Da, mislim, zaista izuzetno je razgovarati sa igračem koji je tako dobro upućen u situaciju što se košarke tiče i jednostavno uđe baš onako u dubinu analize svega što se dešava košarkaški u sredini u kojoj nastupa. Ne znam kako sam ja ubacio Žalgiris u njegov košarkaški CV, ali nema veze. Tako da shvatili ste poentu ove priče. Nadam se da vam je bilo jednako interesantno kao i nama dok smo pravili ovaj intervju, a navikli ste već da kada ovaj format emisije imamo i pregled onoga što se dešava u svim onim najrelevantnijim takmičenjima koje se prenose na našim kanalima. Što se Evrolige tiče, ona ulazi u tu samu završnicu. Partizan je ostvario izuzetno značajnu pobedu protiv Anadolu Efesa u Istanbulu. Veliki trijumf za ekipu Partizana koja opet nije igrala derbi koji je bio zakazan za ovo kolo ABA lige. Zbog izbora u Crnoj Gori utakmica budućnosti Partizana je odložena i zna se sada termini kada će oni igrati i kada će igrati C9 Olimpija sa Crvenom zvezdom. To je 22. aprila će biti odigrane te utakmice. Vidjet ćemo i sve ono što se dešava u ovom momentu u NBA ligi. U 22. kolu ABA ligi, u kome je odložen duel budućnosti i Partizana, pobedama se vratila ekipa Crvene zvezde. Tim Duška Ivanovića je savladao SC derbi 90-70. Crveno-beli su uspeli da uprkos brojnim problemima sa povredama budu u prednosti čitavim tokom utakmice i da uz izraženu skakačku dominaciju čak 23 izgubljene lopte rivala na kraju ostvare ubedljiv trijumf. Sa 23 poena, 5 pogođenih trojki i 7 asistencija, najbolji pojedinac meča bio je Facundo Campazzo, dok je kod pobednika dvocifren učinak imao i Marković sa 11 poena. U timu iz Podgorice, koji nastavlja borbu za mesto u četvrtfinalu, najefikasniji bili su Tasić sa 16 i Megi sa 14 poena. Pod vođstvom Mirsada Alilovića, nakon rastanka sa trenerom Golemcem, pobedama se vratila i C9 Olimpija. U Tivoliju domaći su bili bolji od Cibone 91-85. Ekipa iz Zagreba se snažno suprotstavila još jednom favoritu, ali u četvrtoj četvrtini je slomljen otpor ekipe trenera Sesara. Adams i Dragić vodili su C9 Olimpiju sa po 19 poena do 15. pobede ove sezone, a na drugoj strani još jednu sjajnu partiju odigrao je Kapusta sa 22 poena i 14 asistencija. Seriju od 5 uzastopnih poraza prekinuo je FNP. Domaći su u Železniku bili ubedljivi protiv Zadra 112-87. Blistao je Mur sa 31 poenom. U poraženom timu bolji od ostalih bili su Božić i Ramljak sa po 25. Split je borbu za mesto u doigravanju nastavio pobedom protiv Mornara. U utakmici koju je ekipa sa Hrvatskog Primorja potpuno kontrolisala, prvi strelac bio je Dominik Mavra sa 20 poena. Playmaker je imao 11 asistencija. U redovima Mornara, koji je 12. na tabeli ABA lige, najzapaženiji je bio Percarski, koji je ubacio 18 poena. Mega je 8. pobedom u posljednjih 9 utakmica došla do polovičnog učinka i 6. pozicije na tabeli. Tim trenera Baraće slavio je na gostovanju u Čačku 86-80 nakon preokreta u trećoj četvrtini. Megu su do nove pobede predvodili Đurišić i Rudan sa po 16 poena. Borcu nije pomogla ni odlična partija Hejla, koji je postigao 31 poen, pa Čačani ostaju na 13. mestu sa 2 pobede manje od Mornara i Igokeje. Ali i pobedom više u odnosu na MZT, koji je u Skoplju poražen od Igokeje 84-78. Tim iz Aleksandrovca je tako posle 10 uzastopnih poraza ostvario 2 vezane pobede, možda i ključne u borbi za opstanak. Najefikasniji kod pobednika bio je Stefan Đorđević sa 19 poena, dok je kod domaćina poen manje bez promašaja ubacio Strahinja Mićović. Sledeće kolo donosi možda i ključni duel u borbi za opstanak kada u Čačku gostuje MZT. Denver je mini turneju po Njujorku završio sa polovičnim učinkom. Nakon poraza od Knicksa, Nuggetsi su se revanširali Brooklynu i uz još jedan triple-double Nikole Jokića slavili 108-102. Dvostruki MVP lige je ubacio 22 poena iz 12 šuteva i tome dodao 16 skokova i 10 asistencija, pa Denver i dalje ima lepu prednost u odnosu na najbliže pratioce Sacramento i Memphis, koji uz 2 odigrana meča manje imaju i 5 pobjeda manje u odnosu na lidera.
U obračunu Gilgeousa Alexandera i Devina Bookera Oklahoma je savladala Phoenix i povećala svoje šanse da se nađe barem u play-inu, a prednost Phoenixa u odnosu na Clipperse na 4. poziciji zapadne konferencije sada je zaista minimalna i predstavlja samo jedan poraz. I to pošto je ekipa iz LA-a dobila 5 od posljednjih 6 utakmica. Borba od 6. do 10. mesta je više nego zanimljiva. Posljednji iznad crte u ovom trenutku je Dallas, koji čeka na oporavak Luke Dončića. Aktualni šampioni Warriorsi se i dalje žestoko muče na gostovanjima, a u play-in zoni su još Oklahoma, Minnesota i Lakersi. Šanse za posle-zonu imaju Utah i New Orleans, dok posle serije poraza Portland verovatno ne može ni do play-in turnira. Na istoku čelo i dalje drže Milwaukee. Posle neprijatnog poraza od Indijane, Bucksi su savladali Toronto i to uz savršeni triple-double Janisa Adetokumba, koji nije promašio ni jedan od 9 šuteva iz igre. Milwaukee je tako zadržao prednost u odnosu na Filadelfiju, koja je tim sa trenutno najboljom formom u ligi. 76ersi predvođeni Joelom Embiidom dobili su 9 od posljednjih 10 utakmica i trenutno imaju minimalnu prednost u odnosu na Boston. Cleveland i New York su bezbedni u play-off zoni i utisak je da će se teško pomerati sa pozicija 4 i 5. 6. je Brooklyn, ali njih sa 2 poraza više pritiska Miami, koji je 39. pobedu u sezoni ostvario protiv fenjeraša Detroita. Atlanta dosta oscilira, o čemu govori i poraz na gostovanju u San Antoniju, gde je ispustila veliku prednost, ali i dalje se nalazi u play-in zoni sa timovima Toronta i Chicaga.
Došli smo do kraja još jednog izdanja emisije u obruču. U narednih 7 dana, naravno, opet prebogat košarkaški program. Mnoštvo utakmica u NBA ligi se završava regularni dio sezone, pa ćemo da vidimo ili da malo bolje spoznamo ko bi gdje mogao da završi, jer kako sada stvari stoje, to će biti neizvjesno bukvalno do posljednjeg kola, do posljednjeg dana regularnog dijela sezone.
Ovih dana se igra i martovsko ludilo u NCAA, tako da ćete i u prenosima tih utakmica imati prilike da uživate na našim kanalima. Sve ovo ostalo je standardno, kao što ste već i navikli. Mi vas pozdravljamo do narednog ponedeljka, kada ćemo nastaviti ovaj naš serijal intervjua koje smo zabeležili tokom finalnog turnira Kupa Kralja.
Doviđenja.